Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Saturday. I'm Matt Stahl, along with my partner, Brad Gatto.
Hello, Matty Ice.
Oh. Best one yet.
I realize I call you that a lot.
You
actually.
do. Yeah, and you've never called.
Never done it on the podcast.
There's always a little bit of just like anticipation, excitement over what it's going to be. Did not disappoint. Today,
I can't believe it took 70-something odd episodes to get that one in.
No, it's crazy. Today, we are picking up where we left off on our book review of The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. We've been going through this chapter by chapter. We are currently at chapter 14, which we'll get to shortly. But before we dig into that, Brad, what have you been up to?
Well, as we record this, as I say a lot, because I never know when these are actually going to come out, it's the beginning of March Madness, which is a just short of a religious experience for me. It's important. And so I have been preparing for that, and spring break is coming up. So actually, I was joking around at the office on Monday this week. I have senioritis. I did not want to work this week. I just wanted March Madness to start. Now I've put my head down. I'm an adult. I did what I needed to do and I'm still not done yet. Yeah, I'm just prepping for what is going to be an amazing handful of days for me between the start of March Madness and then getting to get out of Dodge as winter comes back to Minnesota and go sit in the sun for a couple of days with my wife and boys.
Nice.
How about you?
I enjoy March Madness as well. I would not put it quite where you did, but I do have
it's really more the social aspect of it for me because it's like a big hangout with friends time for me.
Yes. There you go. I like that. I do love it. I love the excitement of all of it. And I love what it symbolizes because it's like the transition from winter to spring to a degree. So,
yeah. Backwards, right?
But it's backwards.
It's now bringing snow.
Yeah. I've been on little trips escaping the fine winter and I was ready to be done with it because we didn't really have it here. And
it's your fault.
I'm hoping when we come back, we're going on spring break.
I just realized it's your fault that snow's coming here. You've been out chasing it around and it followed you back.
We'll be on spring break. Same time
people say that when you're like, oh, you brought the sun with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you brought the snow. I did. So there you go, everybody. Matthew Roy Stahl, his address. No, I'm just kidding. We're on chapter 14. This book is 20 chapters long. I can't remember how long ago the first chapter was recorded. It was over a year ago. We do this from time to time. If you haven't picked up on this, you should probably go buy this book. You should probably read it on your own. Give it to your kids and grandkids. Let them read it as well. Even if they're like 5, they'll figure it out, right? Great book. We're on chapter 14. It's called You'll Change. It's just you'll. Like when you just say it isolated, it sounds the contracted you will. You'll sounds, I don't know.
It's very absolute. It sounds, you will change. I think I'd prefer that.
It sounds like I have a really bad accent or a draw.
Y'all.
Yeah. The subtitle is Long-Term Planning is Harder Than It Seems Because People's Goals, Desires Change Over Time. Matt, let's start with this.
Oh boy.
Have your goals and desires in life, we're both in our 40s, changed over time? I'm going to start here. I don't want to start when you were like 2. Okay.
Yeah.
What'd you go to college for?
Industrial engineering.
Industrial engineering. Are you an industrial engineer?
Far from it. What'd you go to college for?
Youth ministry.
Are you a youth minister?
Not paid.
Not paid. Oh,
I have 2 boys at home. Yes, I'm a youth minister.
There you go. Boy, can I relate to this chapter.
The bottom line is this. We all change, right? We know that. We'll dive into this a little bit more, that Morgan gets into how much we underestimate ourselves and our change in our life. But Matt and I are 2 wonderful examples of this. 2 guys in our 40s, families at home. One went to school for engineering, not doing engineering. I went to school for youth ministry, not doing youth ministry as a paid job. In fact, in this chapter, he gives us the statistics. He says that 27% of college grads have a job related to their major.
That's crazy.
27.
Yeah.
So we're actually the majority.
We are. Yeah.
So we're not even weird. Like we're normal. This is normal. You and I doing something we didn't go to school to do is normal. Now, why should we care? How does that relate to financial planning?
There's one sentence I'd like to pull out of here. This is all about psychology, right? Psychology of money. So One statement that I think paints the whole picture is an underpinning of psychology is that people are poor forecasters of their future selves. And this is not only, Morgan points out the example that when every 5-year-old boy thinks he wants to drive a tractor when he gets older.
Yeah. Or be a firefighter or a policeman.
Right.
Or, when you think about like young kids and or superheroes, like when they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody's like, I want to be a lawyer.
Right.
Or I want to be a doctor. Well, maybe doctor.
Maybe doctor.
Or financial advisor. Or
what was your answer?
When I was 5?
Yeah.
For sure, a farmer.
Farmer. Okay.
Yeah. I grew up in rural Iowa, and one of my favorite things to do when I was that age was ride in the tractor with my uncle.
Huh.
This was before buddy seats. Tractors have buddy seats now. Did you know that?
I did not. I haven't been in a tractor for a long time.
Yeah. Like you get in a tractor now, and this, like if you ever rode in a tractor when you were little.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you sit?
On the lap.
On the lap or on the arm of the chair.
Oh, yeah.
Now there's a whole separate chair.
Huh. Just for that.
It is so popular that 5-year-olds want to be farmers that they put a seat in there.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what we want to be. Now, you grow up, most of us don't be those things.
I was way off the mark. Professional wrestler.
You want to...
I was the
Natty Ice from the top rope. That type of professional wrestler, like WWE, or like...
Oh, yeah. Yes. WWF.
Yeah. That is WWF. Who is your favorite?
Ultimate Warrior.
Okay. He was crazy.
He was crazy. But I think the point is, even though that's kind of a silly example of us, thinking about back when we were 5 to 10 years old, but this continues on throughout life as well.
So let me read it one more time because it's important. An underpinning of psychology is that people are poor forecasters of their future selves. And then he says later, this has a big impact on our ability to plan for future financial goals. Now, our fiat job, we are financial planners. And we do a lot of long-term financial planning. The hard part of that is we will change. And we sometimes underestimate that. I gave the statistic, 27% of people are actually getting paid to do a job related to their major. He gives another stat here that's interesting. 29% of stay-at-home parents have a college degree.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, none of your classes were how to change a diaper, how to get your kid to actually do their chores, how to get your kid to pick up after themselves,
how to manage a teenager.
What do you say when your kid talks back to you?
How do you navigate them transition to becoming a teenager?
When your kid's going through puberty and they start having all these emotional swings, like how do you deal with it? You can't tell that we have teenagers at all.
Nope.
Parenting a teenager it's a different job than parenting to this point.
Wild world.
It is crazy. It's a different set of challenges. I would rather be getting up 5 times at night because I have a baby than deal with some of the emotional
versus physical.
Holy moly.
There's labor either
right?
way.
At least with a baby, it's black and white.
Right.
Eat, sleep, poop.
Yep.
I know. Rinse and repeat. I have no idea what my 14-year-old needs from me.
I'm right there with you.
Boy, this just got deep. All right. So psychologists have named this tendency the end of history illusion is the tendency the psychologists call the tendency for people to be keenly aware of how much we've changed in the past, which is what we're talking about, but underestimate how much they're going to, whether their personalities, desires, goals are going to change in the future.
I think we read this. It's Daniel Gilbert. He's a Harvard psychologist. So he says at every stage of our lives, we make decisions that will profoundly influence the lives of the people we're going to become. And then we become those people. We're not always thrilled with the decisions we made. So young people pay good money to get tattoos removed. The teenagers paid good money to get. Middle-aged people rush to divorce. Young adults rush to marry. Older adults work hard to lose what middle-aged adults worked hard to gain. On and on and on.
Yeah. He just continues there and says, all of us are walking around with an illusion, the illusion that history, our personal history, has just come to an end and that we have just recently become the people that we were always meant to be and will be for the rest of our lives.
And goes on to say that same research shows people from age 18 to 68 underestimate how much they will change in the future.
Yeah, how many 68-year-olds are walking around going, yeah, I got a lot of change left in me.
Yeah, not typical.
I mean, even in our 40s, like,
right.
I feel like we're hitting stride. Now, different for you, maybe, because you just made a major life change.
I did.
And so hard for you to.
I've got 2 more careers.
So what we should take away from this is that, yes, we can all look back and understand with the benefit of hindsight and history. Yeah, changed a lot. And I think a lot of people that are listening are probably having, their own ticker tape run through their head of their story of, yep, I thought I was going to do this. That didn't happen. This didn't happen. That did happen. I didn't expect that. And understanding how the paths that we've taken in life aren't exactly how we anticipated them to be. That's not a good or bad statement. It could be amazing that it didn't work out the way that you wanted it to work out or thought it was going to work out. But the psychological kind of warfare that we have going on in our head is that from today forward, that change is going to dissipate. And that, of course, has a major impact on financial planning. So he gives us 2 pieces of advice on how to deal with this, knowing this and understanding that we all underestimate the amount of change that's coming in the future. What can we do, practically speaking, Matt, to bake that into our financial plan?
Yeah. So first is we should avoid the extreme ends of financial planning. And what is meant by this is, so if we think about the extreme ends, on one extreme, Morgan points out that, he's met people that make a very low income and are in a position and they're happy with that. And other end of the extreme is, and I always think as, someone who goes into like the private equity world. I don't know why that always pops in my head, but so you're working your tail off and making really, really good money to afford all these luxury things, but you spend all your time working. And so we think about it, those are on one end of the extreme, they may have all sorts of time freedom. If they're making low money, less stress. On the other end of the extreme, making a whole bunch of money, they can do anything they want, but they might not have the time to go spend all that money. And so going down either of those paths can lead you to a spot where you're in a spot of regret.
And it could be relative to your career, the extreme ends of financial planning. It could be relative to how you invest your money, hyper conservative or hyper aggressive.
Yep.
It could be how you choose to make decisions. I mean, there's just so many different things that could fit into that category of just stay away from the 0 and the 10, and maybe even the 1 and the 9. Try to understand or incorporate that change is going to happen. And when change happens, I need flexibility. And if I'm on one extreme or the other, I'm missing out potentially on flexibility I need in my life.
Yep.
So the second thing he says here.
There's one more thing I'd like to put. So
sure.
There's a statement in here that I think is great. And he points out that, this is true not only from a career standpoint, but also from a financial planning and savings standpoint, also in relationships. And endurance is key. And one statement that I think makes a lot of sense. He says, aiming at every point in your working life to have moderate annual savings, moderate free time, no more than a moderate commute, and at least moderate time with your family increases the odds of being able to stick with the plan. So I think that's a really, really good takeaway.
It's like crash dieting.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Don't crash diet because you can't stick with that long term. And usually it yo-yos back and is even worse on the back end is kind of what I think of when you read through that. So
yeah,
financial planning is exactly the same. Don't do anything super extreme. Don't try to be a super saver one year and save nothing the next year. Don't try to, like we talked about before, extreme risk or no risk, extreme poverty, living a life like where you're just like, I can live on nothing, or chasing that life where you spend everything, that kind of deal. So secondly, we should come to accept the reality of changing our minds. This is a hard one.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. I think in past episodes, we talked about the sunken fallacy cost, which we'll get to in a second. But the quote he has in here that I want to actually read is, when you accept the end of history illusion, which we referenced before, you realize that the odds of picking a job when you're not old enough to drink that you will still enjoy when you're old enough to qualify for Social Security are low. Just think about that. Your 18-year-old self is making decisions for your 65-year-old self.
Yeah. I think I had a distinct advantage here because I was so immature at 18 that I had no idea what I really wanted to do. So,
there's a joke in there.
But it is, accepting.
You just change your mind again.
Yeah. I just again. I think I think
the excuse you gave for not having your mind made up was immaturity. So
I think I may have accepted this one.
it's just really important to know or to understand that you will change your mind again. If you're playing the odds, like the odds are you're going to change your mind again. And from a financial planning perspective, that means you need to build in the ability to do that, the flexibility to do that.
Right. I think we've referenced Daniel Kahneman before. We talk a lot about behavioral finance.
I think it was in a inner circle workshop.
It was, yeah. But he's one of the the primary figures in the behavioral finance world. And another person that worked with him had asked him at one point how, because he changes his decisions all the time, and he asked him how he can live with completely changing his decisions, and his response was, "No, I have no sunk costs." And I think it's really fascinating to bring that back to the behavioral finance side of things. Like, if I choose a career and I stick with that and I'm completely miserable just because I think I have to do that, that's a perfect example of a sunk cost. Thinking, all right, I'm this far along, I got to keep doing it.
Yep.
So
might as well finish it.
Yeah, financial planning is really simple and easy when you sketch everything out on paper.
Yeah.
And if there's one through line through all these chapters, it is, we talk a lot about how the world around us is changing all the time. I think we could probably talk more about how our selves are changing. I mean, we do reference that a lot. We live in a rapidly changing world, but it is really, really interesting to bring that back and acknowledge, like, yeah, we change and we're going to continue to change. Yeah. And all the more reason why it's important to have a financial plan and understand that it's not a one-time thing.
And review it and be willing to change it.
Right.
Based on the current set of circumstances. He says in here, sunk cost, anchoring decisions to past efforts that can't be refunded are a devil, it's a strong word, in a world where people change over time. They make our future selves prisoners to our past, different selves. It's the equivalent of a stranger making major life decisions for you. Your past self may be a stranger to who you are today. Right. You may completely have changed. And it could be everything from the major things like your faith or religion type, because people make changes in that in their life. They make changes in their politics. They make changes in their family situations. They make changes in their job situations, like all these big kind of anchoring things in our life. There's not too many people you meet that have been the same kind of person for decades and decades and decades. And the funny thing is, Matt, if you think about it, people say this all the time in like a surprised tone. They're like, yeah, they've changed. Can you believe it? I think it should be the other way around. It's like, wow, they are the exact same person that they were 40 years ago. I cannot even believe that. He actually references at a different part of the chapter, we didn't bring it up, about like Warren Buffett and how the only reason he is who he is because he is the anomaly of not changing. He's the same guy, like relative to his investment philosophies, decisions, and what he's stuck with for, well, at this point, 80 years, right? And so we've changed. And that past self of you that made decisions for who you are today can possibly hold you prisoner. Now, as a practical sense in financial planning, that can be everything from how you set up your investments. That could be the job that you've taken on, how much you save, when you want to retire, what you want to do in retirement. All these decisions that you made yesterday can change. You're allowed to change those things. Another place I see this a lot, Matt, and I just want to throw this out there as we kind of wrap up, is the advisor you work with. Right.
Yeah.
We see it a ton where we meet families and they're like, well, I've just always worked with this guy. And they know, and sometimes they even admit it. They're like, I know this isn't in my best interest, but sunken fallacy cost, I've always done it this way, so I'm always going to keep doing it this way. It can be extremely costly. At Fiat, one of the things we constantly talk about is how we're really focused in this idea or concept of teaching people how to spend money, work their way down the mountain, not their way up the mountain, that kind of deal. And that's a different set of skills. It's a different set of facts, expertise, all that kind of stuff, different part of financial planning. And we meet a lot of people. I meet a lot of people, Matt, that work with advisors that are really good at helping them get up the mountain, but then don't make that change because of this sunken fallacy cost, or again, your past self making a decision for your current self or your future self to somebody that would suit them better or just be a better guide for this particular stage of their journey. So anyway, when it comes to financial planning, it's just important to understand that you're going to change. It's very interesting. I'll just close by bringing back up the stat that Matt read earlier, which was that people between the ages of 18 and 68 underestimate how much they will change in the future. And so admitting that you will continue to change, your opinions will change. I think there's some ego in that too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I believe this now. And if I change my belief in the future, that means I was maybe wrong now. But it's not about right and wrong either, because you are allowed to change. You are allowed to change your mind and change your opinions, change what you want out of life. And actually, the more that you can accept that, recognize it, and live in it, I think the better off in a lot of ways you could be when it comes to something as practical as financial planning and the long-term plans that you kind of set out for yourself. So you want to add anything to that before we...
You hit it, man. You hit it on the head. Yes.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Every Day is Saturday. My name is Brad Gatto. Still, as always, here with my co-host, Matty Ice. If you want to get a hold of us here at Fiat, you can find all that information on our website, fiatwm.com, FIATWM.com. Thanks for joining us. We will see all of you next Saturday.
Thank you for listening to Every Day is Saturday. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Fiat Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.